one of the very underappreciated aspects of PACE with the low interest rate environment that we're coming out of is the natural hedge it provides against a rising interest rate environment. So now that the markets have experienced a very rapidly rising interest rate environment and more interest rate increases to continue, PACE is a lot more in focus on how a long-term fixed rate asset can really benefit their projects. It can eliminate approximately, in some cases, 1/3 of the capital stack's interest rate risk by replacing floating rate debt with associated high interest rate caps with long-term fixed rate capital. Well, it brings down the overall debt costs in one of two ways. The first way is that when we're working with low rate first mortgage lenders, those low rate lenders tend to operate in a lower LTV environment. So the PACE in those projects can be used to close the equity gap or increase the leverage, which minimizes the borrower's capital outlay on the equity side. The flip side of that is we often work with high leverage first mortgage players who tend to be much higher interest rates, and we can replace a certain portion of that debt or subordinate debt that is also very high interest rate with our lower cost capital PACE. The lower cost of capital, we're very often a half to a third of the cost of comparable mezz or preferred equity. It's also a lot easier to use within a capital stack. We don't have a complicated intercreditor agreement. As a PACE lender, we're very restricted in terms of our rights, which works to both the benefit of the first mortgage lender as well as the owner of the property. I think one of the things that is really very important is that property owners need to understand that most of what they're doing as part of their normal business plan is already eligible for PACE. Many people hear PACE and other green initiatives and think that there's going to be a lot of hurdles that they're going to have to jump through. They're going to have to re-engineer their capital budget, and it's just not the case. Normal things like HVAC systems, lighting that they're already putting into their project are already PACE eligible. There are a lot of parties that didn't know about PACE a couple of years ago, completed their projects, didn't know it was an available option to them, and can now use PACE for a number of reasons on a look-back basis. Some to just recapitalize their project because it's of an economic benefit. Some to close a cost overruns on a project that they were involved in. And in some cases with projects that were adversely impacted by COVID, they can use it to replenish interest reserves or other reserves within the capital structure. In addition to the very rapidly interest rate increases we've incurred, borrowers are also being hit at the same time with a much higher cost of materials and labor on their projects. So the inflationary environment is creating a very significant gap in their capital stack that was formerly unanticipated. So they may have had their capital stack set, and when they went to start sticking shovels in the ground, realized that their budgets no longer worked. And in those cases, PACE can be very instrumental in stepping in and closing that additional gap that was created by the inflationary pressure.